Hey everybody, Jeremy, National Fire Radio. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today, a fellow Jersey native, I love it, fellow fire chief, retired deputy chief out of Kearny, New Jersey, 26 years, almost 27, chief, deputy chief, best-selling author, international speaker and leadership trainer, the George D. Post Instructor of the Year for 2025. The list goes on and on of the accolades and things that you've been involved with. Frank Viscuso, thank you so much for joining me, Chief.
Thank you. Listen, my favorite accolade is Jersey Boy.
I knew it. Boy. That's why I started it off that way, you know. I want to say this. This has been a long time coming. You and I were playing text tag and phone tag a little bit back and forth, and then we ended up rekindling that conversation. We had we talked a couple weeks ago on the phone, and even in that 20-minute conversation, it was just like it was natural, man. I really enjoyed my time talking with you.
It was cool about it because it just felt like I think this is common among most firefighters anyway. You feel like you're that camaraderie. You're a part of a tribe. You're part of a brotherhood. But I felt that connection right away. And I told you this 2 years ago, not this year, but last year. I'm walking down the hallway at FDIC, and there was a podcast booth set up. You weren't there.
Right.
But I picked up one of your hats, and I said, "This is a great hat. How much is it?" And the guy that was there said, "Chief, it's free." I'm like, "Well, listen, I'll pay for it." No, it's free. And I've been wearing that hat. It's the same colors as the baseball team I coach.
Awesome.
I probably wear that hat 4 days a week. So
I love it. Well, I mean, listen, that's a great segue too, right? Because, the things that I just listed that you've been involved with and things that you do to stay busy, the one thing that truly keeps you busy, and we had to reschedule this podcast, I think twice now, was because of baseball, man. Summer baseball with your boys. What a great thing for the family unit, right? I always talk about how important the structure of sports is for kids growing up, whether they pursue it in a real elite competitive style summer program, or if it's just recreation. I think the idea of team sports is super important for kids growing up, right? And I was a product of it myself. I wanted to ask you this. You've been a baseball coach. You are a baseball coach, 14 and 15 years old. What is it like when you teach internationally when it comes to leadership and coaching, and then you coach kids? I want to hear the correlation between the corporate coaching, the fire service coaching, and then coaching kids. There's got to be a tremendous amount of similarities between it all.
There are. I'm glad you asked that. I just came from Safer Conference out in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yeah, sure.
And there was a young kid in my class, and I love this, by the way. I love when I'm doing a conference and somebody brings their son or their daughter.
No doubt.
And they're about my kids' ages, because I'd say 90% of my class is for the firefighters, but 10% I'll turn to that young boy or girl in the class and say, now this is something I want you to know. And this is something I teach my boys and these young boys that I've been coaching throughout these years. Here's one thing. Never let the moment be bigger than you. Never let the moment be bigger than you, basically, for a baseball player means this. When you're stepping in that batter's box and the game is on the line, I don't want you to think, wow, this moment's too big for me. I want you to be grateful, because, pressure's a privilege, right? I want you to be grateful you have this moment to potentially get a walk-off or keep the game going. And if you swing and try your best and it doesn't work out, that's okay. I want you to know that what you're going to learn is how to overcome the fact that you just had a disappointment, but now you have to rebuild and try to do everything in your power so you don't have that disappointment again the next time you have that opportunity. Now, how does that correlate to a firefighter? When you turn a corner and you see a 3-story building and you see people on a 3rd floor out the window, and you're thinking, well, this is great. We have one engine company available right now, no ladder company available because we have another job that they're out across town. Well, guess what? I don't want you to let that moment be bigger than you either. So the mindset that I'm trying to teach, this is way more important. I couldn't care about winning a baseball game. I care about the kids learning something that's going to help them in life. And as a result of that, I find that the connection between the two, I mean, I wrote a book, Life Lessons from the Fire Service, and I wrote a book, 35 Things Every Firefighter Must Know and Do, and there's a lot of similarities in both of them.
Yeah.
But the Life Lessons from the Fire Service book is all about these little lessons. Never let the moment be bigger than you, and being, I think, one of my favorite ones. Or or pressure is a privilege, and what that means, and the concept of, if you're a kid that, say you're in high school and you got a decent arm and you want to be a quarterback, but you're a freshman and you're the third string quarterback, and the varsity kid, the senior kid gets injured. So the JV kid steps up and he takes that spot. And guess what? He doesn't really cut it. And so they say, hey, we're going to give you a shot next game. You're going to feel some pressure. You're a freshman. But that's a privilege. You put yourself in a situation where this coach believes in you and says, okay, plan A and plan B didn't work out. Maybe plan C will. That's what we're talking about. I mean, when it comes to anything we're doing in life, it's all about being prepared. And the other part is, don't think you have to have it all figured out. The end of a failed strategy is the beginning of a new strategy. Okay? So if we do everything in our power, like a wrestler, we do everything in our power to get that takedown. We didn't get the takedown. This kid took us down. He took me down. He scored 3 points on me. Did he win the match? No, he won the position. Well, here's our new position now. I'm on bottom. I need to get out. I need to get a reversal. I need to do something, escape. I need to do something now to win this position. So the end of a failed strategy is the beginning of a new strategy, and we're always trying to win the next position. So how does that correlate to the fire service? Hose line selection and deployment, ventilation, forcible entry, everything. But in addition to that, how does that correlate to life? Guess what? I just tried something. It failed. I just made a mistake. I made a bad life choice. Okay, this is my new position. So how do I adjust from here? And Jeremy, you know this. I know this, man. Life's hard. Life's hard, man. I got it all figured out. Everything's going smooth. Couldn't be better. Then all of a sudden, crisis. My buddy Andy Andrews once said, everybody in life is either in a crisis, just got out of a crisis, or heading towards a crisis.
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah.
And I don't think that's a cynical way to look at things. I think that's a way to keep it in perspective. When you're on a high, enjoy the moment, but also know that when something happens and sets you back, well, there's where the growth is going to happen.
How do we teach that perspective, though? I mean, and I don't, I'm talking about the early stages of development. You're working with young teenage boys, right?
Yeah.
How do you teach perspective? Because they live in a world today that is absolutely 100% mostly fake around them in what they're seeing, what they're digesting, what they're consuming. Yeah. It's all elevated and fluff, frankly. And you find so many of these kids become disillusioned by what reality actually is versus what it is. And I can't stress this enough that, like, hey, kid, you're going to get kicked in the teeth. Like, the real world doesn't care about how you're wrapped up in bubble wrap right now, right?
No, you're not kidding. Listen, you know there's, and I tell them this, don't believe somebody's Instagram life.
Oh, 100%.
Because they're only going to post the best of. Years ago, I was, I don't remember where I was teaching, somewhere across the country, and on the way home, delayed flight, overnight cancellation. I have to stay at a hotel. I couldn't get a hotel. I'm in an airport, halfway across the country, and I'm sleeping on a cot.
Yep.
And the cot is just, they set up probably 150, 200 cots. And what I did is I had my bag. I didn't much care about my clothing bag. I care about my computer bag. This is my business. So I kind of wrapped it around my arm, and it's underneath the cot. I didn't know if I would fall asleep, but if I fell asleep, I wanted, if somebody tugged on that thing, they're going to wake me up. Because I am from Jersey. So
that's right.
But the point is, the next day I jump on a flight in the morning. I get upgrade, first class, and it's one of these ones where you lay back, beautiful seats, right? I take a picture of that and I post that, and I say, awesome, I got upgraded. Check out my seat. I said, but click on the comments to see where I was last night.
Right.
And the very first picture was the cot.
Yep.
So I got 2.5, 3 hours on this beautiful seat, but I had 8 hours sleeping on or laying on a cot waiting for this flight. And I remember Kurt Isaacson sends me a message. He goes, "Thank you so much for that post," because that post shows the reality. Everybody thinks they see what you have and they think it's so easy. And they think, and I don't mean me, I mean all of us.
No, in general, of course.
Right? Like, look at Jeremy. He's kicking butt right now. He's got this unbelievable podcast. He's doing great, man. You know what? With that is going to come jealousy. There's going to come envy. There's going to come people that are, going to try to tear you down. That's some of the things I teach the boys too. The higher you go, the more somebody's going to try to take you out. expect that, and that's a good thing because it shows that you're stepping out to try to create something special. But back to that thought, and your question, I tell them we've won 22 tournaments. Okay, my son's team that I've been coaching to over the years. We probably lost as many as we won.
Right.
The hardest ones are when you make it all the way to the championship and then lose by 1 or 2 runs because you were so close. Early on, when they were 7, 8, 9, the kids would cry. It's like, we don't get a t-shirt, we don't get a plaque, we ain't getting a trophy, we're not getting a medal, we're not getting a ring, we're not getting anything. That other team gets it and we have to watch. And I would always make them watch. And I would say, show them respect. They worked hard just like you did. They won. They earned this. But let it hurt.
That's it.
Because if it hurts,
That's right.
that's what's going to push you to show up and do those extra reps when you don't want to. So you could be the one that has that moment. So every time we have those moments, my team's the first team that will, when a game ends, the guy comes out, he gives the plaque, and everything to the team that won, and that's our team. And the other team goes and they do their huddle, and all the parents want to come take photos. And we do all that stuff. It's all fun stuff. But as soon as the other team breaks for the huddle, my team will stop whatever they're doing, look at that team, and clap for them because they made it to the championship.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to teach them, those things.
Yeah, the recognition, too, of all the work that goes into it, just because you didn't win. The hard work, the dedication, the passion, all of it that's gone into it, it's a craft. And I think that's truly, for me, like, win or lose. Listen, I like to win. Everybody likes to win, right? Mm-hmm. But you're not going to win every time. The recognition of an opponent that, is formidable and that they did the same amount of work or more, that is an achievement that needs to have appreciation shown towards it. No doubt.
Yeah. I don't know if you follow college wrestling at all.
Not so much.
Okay, you got this guy Jordan Burroughs. He was Olympic gold medalist winner from New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Guy. Great wrestler. And then you got Kyle Dake, who was a 4-time national champion, D1 national champion in 4 different weight classes. First one to do that. And now these guys will be wrestling each other off, or wrestling against each other to see who's going to represent America. So now they're mortal enemies. One of them's going to get their dream and knock the other one off.
Right.
And I just saw Jordan Burroughs do an interview on this a couple weeks ago. He says when just before, maybe I think it was a couple weeks, maybe a couple months before they were to wrestle each other, Kyle Dake's father passed away. And Burroughs said, I should call him and you just tell him, hey man, I'm sorry, but I thought about it and I'm like, you know what, this guy's my enemy. Like, I have to beat this guy. I can't show weakness. I can't show kindness. Well, a couple years later, Jordan, and he's telling a story. He says, Jordan Burroughs says when his father passed away, the first call he got was from Kyle Dake. And he said, I should have done that.
Yeah.
I should have done that. But we live and we learn. I love the fact that he shared the story.
Right.
There's no shame, man. There's no shame in doing something stupid. Listen, I grew up down here. This is Shore Acres, New Jersey. I grew up, since I was 7 years old, coming down here every summer, jumping in a lagoon, doing dumb things, making bad decisions. And a matter of fact, ironically enough, I had all our friends that we grew up with here just last weekend and sat down with my parents, and we basically told them about all the dumb decisions we made.
I love that.
Listen, my mom called me the next day. She goes, last night's conversation was so great. We didn't know any of this stuff.
Right.
I'm like, I didn't think you were ever going to know any of this stuff. We're kids. We do dumb things. And sometimes as adults, we do dumb things. We need to learn to forgive ourselves because we're human beings, and human beings make mistakes.
So where does this all come from for you? Because hearing that, the storytelling of your childhood there and getting in trouble and being mischievous and making mistakes, to where you are today, speaking on national and international stages, talking to the military, talking to private corporate businesses about leadership and how do you go from that kid that's doing what kids do through your fire service career to finding this leadership, this step up and lead, this take charge and go? Where does that come from, Chief? Have you put the correlation back to like that moment that it ticked with you that like, man, this is where I need to go. I need to pursue this avenue. This is of interest or something I want to do.
I love that question so much, and here's why I love it. Because earlier this year, I had a conversation with my buddy Mark Giordano, who I graduated with. Most brilliant guy I've ever met. My age, I call him a guy, but most brilliant kid I've ever met. Most brilliant man I know. So smart, so intelligent. He's my go-to. If I have a financial problem, I call him. If I have a spiritual problem, I call him. If I have, because he's an attorney, he's a financial planner, he's a life counselor, and he doesn't even know it. And I told him, man, everybody needs a friend like you. And he's so successful. And he goes, Frank, I'm really proud of you, everything you've done. And I said, and he wrote a script, movie script called K-Town, about the town we grew up in, Kearny. And the opening, I wish I remembered the opening line, but the opening line from Kearny, you could see New York City.
Yeah.
You could see it. And the opening line was something like, Kearny, from Kearny High School, you have this beautiful view of New York City. And he basically says, you can see everything that you want in life is right there, yet at the same time it's out of reach. And he talks about how most people from the town, they're going to become firefighters, teachers, this, that, which is great. These are great jobs. But every now and then somebody kind of gets out and goes a little bit beyond that. And we've had pro athletes come out of Kearny, very successful business people, very successful writers, very successful people in all different walks of life. And I just said, where do you think it comes from? He says it's just something internal. Some people just weren't meant to be confined to that cage, because I can go to a local bar that I used to go to when I was 21, 22, 23 years old.
Yep.
And there's guys that are 51, 52, 53 years old that I grew up with still at that same bar.
Sitting in the same stools.
Exactly. And I love them just as much.
Yes.
I love them just as much, man. I love seeing them. It's like, oh my God, I'm home. Mushmouth is out there performing still. I grew up with all these guys. I went to school with all these guys. It's great, And
what was your push to get out?
Well, I don't know. What I can tell you is something happened many years ago. A guy that ended up becoming a deputy chief of Port Authority lived in the apartment above. My parents owned a two-family house. I lived in the basement of the two-family house. I'm the fourth child who didn't quite get out yet. I'm still a kid. I remember how old I was. I'm thinking maybe 17, 18. And this guy just started working for Port Authority, and again, ended up very high up. I think he was second in command when he retired. But when he left, he bought a house. And in the basement of our house, he left a box. And one day I'm just looking at this box. I'm like, what's that box? Like the basement, the section we had, where the laundry was and all that stuff, and the utilities. There's also a little train section, and all of my stuff was boxed up there. All the records. I have every KISS record until they get them, all that stuff. But I open up the box, and it's a bunch of tapes, and they were motivational tapes, like Tony Robbins type of stuff, but before. I don't even know if he had tapes out at the time. And I popped them in and I started listening to them. I remember one was called The Plus Factor. Don't remember who it was. And I remember him talking about things like, hey, there's two different types of people. You have the type of people that say partly cloudy, and then you have the type that say mostly sunny. And which type are you? And I was, when I heard that tape, a partly cloudy guy.
Yeah.
And I said, well, maybe I need to start being this kind of guy. And then he talked about when some people walk into a room, they have the plus factor. And the plus factor is, hey, that's the person I want to be around. That's the person that makes me feel better when I'm in their presence. That's the person I want to be in business with. That's the person you're drawn to. I didn't have that. I was the one I was the wallflower. I'd sit in the corner and just watch everything and say, oh, I wish I was more like him or her or that, all this stuff, And so there was a lot of self-doubt, a lot of, I dealt with anxiety, I dealt with stress, all that stuff. And then listening to all these tapes, probably like 8, 9 tapes in there, I listened to them regularly. It started shaping my thinking just a little bit different.
How old were you?
16, 17, maybe 18. But it took a while because I had 16, 17, 18 years of negative programming. Nothing that my parents did, nothing that teachers did. Self-talk, negative programming. I open up my seminars telling people, I say, my biggest challenge in life is I am an overthinker. I don't know if you are. You and I never talked about this.
Not so much, no.
Well, that's an advantage. Because when you're an overthinker, you create a lot of unnecessary stress. Sometimes you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're saying, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Or why didn't I
My wife and my 18-year-old daughter.
So you know.
Yes, sir.
And I've had people who you know very well, in the fire service call me up, and when I talk to them about the stress and anxiety I dealt with growing up, they said, hey, look, my son or my daughter are dealing with that. Could you call them and just give them a tip or two? And so, I've had several conversations with leaders in the fire service and their children about what it was like for me, because it sucked, man. Listen, it sucks when you don't want to be you, and that's what I dealt with for a portion of my life. It's like, I don't like who I am, and I don't know how to change it. Like, this is what I want to be.
Yeah.
How do you get there?
Yes.
I don't know. And I didn't have enough people in my corner. My parents were awesome, but hey, I wanted to make movies, right? What the hell do they know about making movies? You think
we also don't let them in?
Right. That's
right?
true. That's true. We don't, and back then especially. Now more so, people are willing to say, hey, hopefully firefighters are getting the message. If you need help, ask for help.
My kids are more transparent than I ever was with my kids. My dinner table conversation is a lot different than what mine was when I was growing up.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's the way it should be, man.
I agree, but you were young, impressionable, 16, 17, 18 years old. I mean, that is super young. You're still trying to figure things out. You come across a box of motivational tapes, and that set you on the path of, like, there's something more to this.
Throughout the years, I would meet, I met John Maxwell, I met some speakers, I met some people that are pretty successful, and I'd always get a book autographed by him. And I never thought I want to write books. By the way, I was typing with 2 fingers using my thumb for the space bar. I didn't know the difference between an adjective and an adverb when I wrote my first book. That's true. I'm not making that up. I didn't.
Well, some of the best writers, they have it here. They just don't know how to put it down.
Well, that's what it is, man. See,
yeah.
I don't know if you're like me. I see things in pictures. I see things in like it's a movie. My mind is never dormant. It's always active. I'm always thinking about, sorry about the seagle.
You're good. It's ambiance, man. I just got back from the shore, so don't worry about it.
Right, cool.
Yeah.
But writing it was different. How do I sit and how do I I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but when 9/11 occurred, you could see the Twin Towers from my firehouse.
Sure.
And shortly after, over 30 of us from my department went over there to see if there's something we could do to help out. And the couple weeks that followed after being over there were pretty life-altering for me. Had little to listen. I'm talking internally here. What happened was, I started saying, why am I living this way? I know there's more I want out of life. Why am I not going after it? Because now I just saw how quick it can all go away.
Yeah.
There were 2 guys from my town, didn't even work there, but one of them got a promotion at work. They went to the windows of the world on top of the World Trade Center to celebrate their promotion on 9/11. Neither one of them came home. If that can happen, and I had another buddy, by the way, who just on Monday was supposed to start working at Cantor Fitzgerald on Monday. For some reason, he said, I don't want to take that job. And he called up and said, and declined it. 2 days later, he may not.
A lot of those stories, man.
Right.
There's a lot of those stories. Yeah.
So I just said, you know what? For whatever reason, I said, I want to write a book. And this was really interesting. I got a tape recorder. I went and I started interviewing firefighters to get their story. And I interviewed this one firefighter who made a rescue when he was off duty, and everybody was telling me, man, this is a firefighter's firefighter. He's the guy you want in your foxhole. Like, this is the toughest guy you're ever going to meet. He's the best firefighter. They're praising him up and down. I'm like, well, that's the guy I want to talk to, because that's not how I see myself. I want to know how he thinks. And so he's telling me the story of making this rescue when he was off duty, and how, no mask, no gear, burning, choking on smoke. And he goes, there's no way I'm leaving here, without him. I've been living in hell for 2 years. Whatever I have to do, I'm fine. I'm going to get this guy. I'm going to fight him. I'm going to get him out. And he tells the story. I go, wait, back up. What did you just say? And he goes, no, I'm not leaving without him. I go, no, something about 2 years. I go, what was that? And then he goes and tells me 2 years ago, they had their first fire, young probationary firefighter. He searched a room, missed a woman. She died. They found her in that room, and he blamed himself.
Yeah.
Now, when he goes on and tells the story, you can understand how he missed her. And I won't get into the details now. But it makes complete sense how he did not realize it was a woman. But he carried that weight for 2 years. Being an overthinker, I get that. I'll carry weight for 2 years. Like, it's over. Most people are like, it's over with, nothing I can do, I'm done with. Not me. And when he said that, I'm like, oh, wait. Okay, so even a guy like this is a little bit like me. So when I wrote that first book, Common Valor, I was trying to tell stories of the bravest firefighters that I could find, and I was getting the real story.
Right.
The real story of guys that, like, I don't know if I have what it takes to do this, but this was the incident when I had to push beyond that wall, that imaginary wall that's there, where you will find out if you really have what it takes. And the stories are about the firefighters that pushed through those walls. And that was a big moment for me. It was because I'm like, man. Matter of fact, I was a firefighter of the year. I made a rescue in a water rescue in town, and the only reason I bring it up, after I interviewed these firefighters, I went around and I took 3 of the books, and I had all 16 firefighters I featured sign 3 of the books. One day maybe I'll raffle them off or something. I just want an autograph on their story.
Sure.
And I thought it would be a cool thing. And one of them says, you know what, Frank, when you came to interview me, I didn't know your background. And he started saying, I didn't know you achieved this and this and this. And he goes, that's pretty impressive. Why didn't you tell your own story? I said, there's nothing impressive about my story. And what I realized was this. Every guy I interviewed felt the same way.
Right.
Like everyone, like this is
That
what
makes
we
sense.
do. There's nothing impressive about. They were almost, and mine really was nothing impressive, but theirs was significantly more impressive. But they all said anyone would have done it. And I'm here to tell you, after 26 plus years in the fire service and another, however many years I've been spending out there teaching, not everybody does do it. We're trying to get everybody to understand that's what you do. Because I think we have, listen, now, this is a challenging time in the fire service. I love this. I love podcasting. I love what you guys are doing. I love what Corley, with all the guys that are doing it right are doing.
Sure.
But we got a lot of social media firefighter influencers out there, that are just trying to build a brand instead of putting out information that's going to help people actually become a better firefighter.
It is an interesting time. You and I talked about this at length on our phone call, and it made me think about a bunch of things. And I mean, as much as I talk and put myself out there, I listen more, and I see what's going on, and I know who's who and who's doing what, and I know a lot of the backstories with a lot of the pages and social media that's out there. And we've always had people that are self-promoters. We've always had people that are out there doing things for their own sake or so on. But the mission does truly matter. In social media today, and podcasts and things like that are the medium of which people are consuming information about this job that we all say we love.
Yeah.
And so to use these channels correctly and to be fiercely protective of the message that's put out, the intention behind the message, I think absolutely matters. And I caution people to really sit and digest and understand what the intention is of the message, right, because that's what matters most.
Yeah, it's not, if you're doing it because you want to sell t-shirts or, quite honestly, books, that's not why I'm doing it.
Right. And that's always existed, and that's always going to exist, whatever medium it is of that time frame. That's always been a part of this.
Right.
But if you want something more out of it, your storytelling right now with what you're sharing with your early days and finding yourself and not happy with who you are, it resonates with me. Like this episode, 20, 30 minutes in already, absolutely resonates with me. I'm 48 years old, and I only came to discover that I didn't like who I was only a matter of 7, 8 years ago.
Right.
And I'm pushing myself every day to be a better firefighter, a better husband, a better business owner, a better father. And that's the one thing, Frank, that I think is so important, is that I don't want people to give up on their journey. Their journey has only begun. Yeah. I don't care if you're 48, 58, 78. You have time to make your life about who you want to be, period.
100%. And at the end, that I think is what's going to be the most important thing. I tried.
That's it.
You know, I put something out there. You know, I took a chance, and I think, you know, that alone, I've come to realize this. The journey really is the best part. Like,
no doubt.
For example, when I am writing a book, writing the book is great. Once the book is published, you almost get a little depressed.
No doubt.
It's like it's over. You know.
The process is everything for me, and I've heard people talk about that, and I always said, you know, Chief, it's fitting for the seagulls in the background and your background where you are. Last week I was down at the Jersey Shore for the week in LBI. It's one of my favorite places. I always said that I know I made it in life when I never, ever have to wear shoes again.
Yeah. Oh, amen.
Right?
Amen.
I never want to have to put on a pair of shoes. That means I'm doing well in life, and it doesn't mean that I have to comply or do anything I don't want to do, right? If I don't want to wear shoes, I'm never going to wear them again. That means I made it. But I've come to realize that that is a lofty ambition that I think I can achieve. But I think when I get there, I'm still going to put shoes on every day and go enjoy this process of trying to get to that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I know exactly what you're saying. I just sat down with some pretty well-known guys out there at the conference I was at, and 3 of the guys at the table retired. 3 of them are on the verge of retiring, and they were asking what's it like, and you know, one guy's like, hey, when I retire, I want to make sure, you know, I'm still active. I might even look for another job in the fire service. The other guy's like, I'm not, man. I'll be at a bait shop selling bait, and I'll be perfectly happy just doing that.
That's fine.
You know, one of the guys I retired with, he drives a school bus, you know, a few days a week. He loves it, absolutely loves it, because he's doing it because he just wants to stay busy doing something. You know, but that's the key, man. By the way, that's what I always loved about this job. This is probably a good thing to talk about, because I think this can be helpful for a lot of people. I grew up with a guy, he's a 2-star general in the Army today, Thomas Felty, and I like to explain to people that I have been on the battlefield with him many times, playing pee-wee football, okay? He went into the Army, had an amazing career. At one point, he was in charge of the infantry program in Fort Benning, Georgia. A great guy, a great thinker, and we were talking about balance in life, and he said something, this was just a few years ago, that meant a lot to me. He said, when you leave work at work. Don't bring it home with you. He says, because what happens is then, you know, that starts to define who you are. He goes, when I'll go play ball with my kids, I'll go take the dog for a walk, I'll go fishing, I'll go on a hike with my wife. The last thing I want to think about is the Army. And I found that to be interesting. Like, this is an Army general, an active Army general, and you would think he don't ever put that in a box off to the side. It's right. Who he is at all times, and he's saying no. As soon as I punch out, and I leave it there. Because otherwise it'll drive you crazy. And the fire service can do that too. You know, I did my best to leave the fire service at the firehouse, I mean. Come home and be there. And sometimes you have things that happen at work that, or something that's going on, especially when you become a chief, you know, a deputy chief, battalion chief
Sure.
of the department. You're dealing with problems at a different level. You're dealing with situations that it's not just like, hey, that happened at work, I don't have to think about it. No, now, you know, maybe you're dealing with insubordination or some other situation where we're going to have to address something and it's uncomfortable, but I have to go through this process, and you can't quite leave it at work. I get that. That's part of it. but don't bring problems into your family that don't need to be. At the same time, I used to say things like, leave your problems at home. I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like if you have an issue, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast, and you need to talk to another firefighter about it, talk to that firefighter. Hopefully you have someone that you have a strong enough bond with. You can pull them aside and say, hey, you got a minute? I just need to talk. I need to get something off my chest.
Conversation can cure so many things.
100%. 100. Bad conversations can ruin good things, and good conversations can fix bad things.
I would agree with you. I want to ask you this: your own journey, finding yourself in where you are today, and how you were able to achieve this, incredible story. Coming from these roots that you're talking about to where you are today. That process for you, I know now you understand that the process is really what drives you, right? The process is what drives you, but did you foresee yourself being able to do these monumental feats? I mean, becoming an author, right? You explained why you wrote your first book, but did you believe that you could do it? Did you gain this self-confidence from that younger kid that was searching for something more, to the assurance that I could do this? And then as you hit these moments in life, do they reinforce your belief that I can be more, I can do more, I can be better?
I think what happens is this. Common Valor was written out of inspiration. I don't know where it came from. I have my faith,
Yeah.
So I believe I know where it came from. But I was written out of inspiration. Years later, Step Up and Lead was written a little bit more out of frustration. I just felt there was a better way to do things. And some people may even say desperation, because I wanted to put a message out there that I felt was needed. I felt like those two things, if you have one of those two things in your life, that's when you're in a position to make change, inspiration or desperation. If you don't have either one of those, you might just, I'm uncomfortable, I don't like where I'm at, but I'm going to stay here because I'm not uncomfortable enough to make change.
Yeah.
I find myself being a person who gets uncomfortable enough where I have to make change. And then two things come to mind. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, one time talked about how a best-selling author and a critic criticized his writing. And he says, well, guess what? He says, I'm not trying to be a best-selling author. I'm not trying to be a great writer. I'm trying to put out a great message and sell books. Now, that's me. I'm trying to put out a great message. Quite honestly, never been about the book sales. It's been about, I want to put out a great message. So I related to that, and I said, okay, I don't have to be a great writer to put out a great message. But then I remember hearing somebody talk about the Police, the band The Police, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, if you listen to the Police, their early albums, you're listening to three guys learn how to be a band. I mean, their early music, they're trying to figure things out, and then their later music, you're like, oh man, you're like they found themselves. That's how I look at my writing. If you read Common Valor, you're looking at a guy who's learning how to be a writer. Then pick up my latest books, and you're like, okay, he figured it out. Because I could see that there's a difference in the writing. I read it now, and I read Common Valor. I'm like, oh gosh, what was I thinking? That sentence doesn't even make sense. But now
part of the process.
The process, because I'll probably feel that way about my books now, 10 years from now.
Well, and what I find very interesting is you go from leadership books, right? You go from storytelling and capturing the valor of everyday people to leadership books to children's books.
Yeah. I think that's just
make that connection for me.
I don't know where that connection comes. I told this story before, but I was sick one day, really, really sick. I mean, to the point where I went to the hospital with severe stomach pains, and I remember thinking, I think I'm dying. It was that bad.
Wow.
And so, the doctor ran some tests on me. It turned out I had severe food poisoning. Severe food poisoning.
That will do it.
I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease that week, and it turned out to not be Crohn's disease. For several months, I was taking medicine for Crohn's disease until I went back to the doctor. And while I was waiting for the doctor, I took my own chart from the door, and I just was thumbing through it, and I found something, and I said, "What's this?" He looks, he goes, "Where'd you get that?" I go, "That's the test result from the day I went to the hospital." He runs back into the other room. He comes back into this room, and he goes, with a medical book, he goes, you don't have Crohn's disease. You had food poisoning." I said, "What?" He goes, "Look, often misdiagnosed as Crohn's disease. You had food poisoning. That's what that is." I said, "You never looked at my chart?" You know? Like, if I never looked in that chart my whole life, today I'd probably think I still had that. But at that time, and I don't think I've ever told that story, by the way, but at that time, I'm at home with these severe stomach pains, just trying to figure things out, and I write this little story called Sprinkles the Fire Dog. And I didn't think much of it. It was just a little story, and it was, I don't know, it might have been, I think it was 20 years later, after writing a couple books, getting to know Paul Combs. I said, "You ever think about doing a children's book?" He says, "Yeah, I think about it now and then." And I send him the story, and he's like, "Yeah, maybe." But then he was out. Then I got motivated. I'm like, well, I really want to get this story. I like this story.
Yeah.
So I found another illustrator, and they did a few illustrations for me, and they were great. But then Paul calls me back up, and Paul's like, "I want to do it." I'm like, "You do?" And Paul's the guy I would want to do it with. I mean, we've done a few things together.
Sure.
So I said, okay. And then I said, "What made you change your mind?" He said, "The corner mutts. The corner mutts that are telling this little puppy that he's not big enough, strong enough, brave enough, and doesn't have what it takes to be a firefighter. Those 3 corner mutts, I have them in my life too. People tell me, yeah, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough." He goes, "And sometimes the corner mutts are in my own head.
Mm-hmm.
It's me negative." He goes, "But that's what drew him to that story." And when he said that, that's when I realized there was another element to the whole story. Because I'm like, here's a little guy chasing his dreams, and he's like, "I think this story's about everything that was against him." And it wasn't even the obstacles of his size. It was the obstacle of these 3 dogs saying, "Stay." Why are they called corner mutts? Because they never leave their corner.
That's right.
They just, Walt Disney calls them lawnmowers. Lawnmowers are people that'll cut you and me down. They'll cut down everything around them, but they never leave their own backyard. And Anthony Castro calls them recliner snipers.
Yes.
They exist, right? Critics.
Did you, this was it became a passion project for you?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I think every book I write is a passion project.
Yeah, yes, but this one is different, right?
Yeah.
Like this came at a trying time in your life.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you just told me I think I was dying.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you at that moment when you had that thought, did you think about your contributions, your legacy, your work, the process? Have you done enough? I mean, I don't know how serious you are by saying that, but it's a moment where you're under duress and having unknown problems that you, right?
Yeah, I think there was something that happened. I mean, I remember at the time, I almost hesitate to tell this story because I don't want to come out the wrong way, but I was dating a girl at the time who was, beautiful, amazing, wonderful person. But as I was there in the hospital thinking this might be it, I remember thinking, she's not the one for me. I remember thinking it, like, I want to, like, it was almost like, how am I going to do this? If I get through this, I realize, like, that's not the one I want. I might sit next to me on my deathbed. And that sounds so horrible, but I remember that. And then I remember thinking when I was writing how therapeutic it was.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't thinking about my problems. Your brain, I don't think, is capable. When you're focused on one thing, I was telling my son, you don't feel pain. If you break your finger and your toe at the same time, you don't feel the pain in both of them at the same time. It'll go back and forth.
Right.
You'll feel it in your pain, and then you'll feel it in here. But it's not like both of them at the same time. So you get what you focus on, or whatever's drawing your attention. When I'm writing, Or when I'm coaching baseball, same thing. I'm only thinking about coaching baseball. I'm thinking about that moment. I may have problems going, oh man, I gotta get the car fixed, and that's gonna cost me $2,000, and maybe I ought to just pack it in and get a whole new car. But then if I do that, I got another car. But you got all those things going through your head. Right? When I'm coaching, I don't think about any of that. I think about this pitch. It's the same thing when I'm writing. You know?
Is that part of your program when you talk about leadership? Do you talk about how to compartmentalize and focus on the task at hand?
Yeah, I do. And I also talk about the importance of creating systems. I've created a lot of systems that, like, for example, every fire I went to as an incident commander, I had a tactical worksheet. It's the one featured in the book, Fireground Operational Guides.
Right.
I use that tactical worksheet at every fire. That tactical worksheet is the template also for my structure fire report. There's 17 boxes on a tactical worksheet. Like, one box itself is size up. And there's 15 plus points there. But so there's a lot to remember. But then I scale it down to 10 categories for my structure fire report. So on my computer, I actually have a written structure fire report format for every fire I go to before the fire even happens. And someone might say, how's that possible? Well, here's how it's possible. On the way to the fire, I'm going to do the same things. If I have any pre-planned information, I'm going to review it. I'm going to try to get a multi-sided view. I'm going to position in a proper place, establish a command post. I'm going to do a size up. So all of that stuff is kind of written in my report. If the resources I order, rapid intervention team, war supply officer, accountability officer, rehab, a police department, EMS,
Sure.
You name it. It's all the same things every single fire. So if I'm going to do these things at every single fire, I want to document that I do it. It's on my tactical worksheet, but it's also now in my report. I cut and paste it. The only things that really change are problems encountered or specific strategy and tactics. Like, it'll say we advanced the first, or secured a water supply and advanced the first line to locate, confine, extinguish the fire. That'll be in my report already. But now I'll elaborate on that. How do we secure the water supply? What hydrant do we take? And where did we bring that line? So I'll do more cutting and pasting and just finishing sentences than writing the whole thing. So if you were to take 10 structure fire reports throughout the years, you're looking at the same format. And I did that because it was easy. It made it easy for me. I didn't feel the stress now of, like, how do you write a structure fire report? Like, I'm doing it the first time every time.
Right.
No, there's a system for it. And I realized the value of systems. I wrote, I don't even know how many, but I think it was around 70 SOPs for my department. Definitely more than 60, but around 70 SOPs. And we call them SOGs, not Ps, but I had format for how to write them. I had a format for when I was putting in for a grant. If we were to receive this information or this equipment, how would we basically implement this into our systems? How would we work this into our department? Whatever the question was. I used the same format. PRDI, planning, research, develop, implement, evaluate. And I said, if we receive the money for this equipment, the way we would implement this is using the PRDI format, and I would go the planning stage, and these are the things we do in the planning stage, the research stage, the implementation, all that stuff, and it was all written. So when I'm doing a grant proposal, it's like, oh, this is the fun section to write,
Right.
Because I've been using the same one for 7 years.
Right.
Just change SCBAs to mobile data terminals. That, I think, is one of the things that I really try to get across when I'm doing, at least when I'm talking to officers and above, is you don't have to reinvent this every time. And I'm not asking you to use my report writing system. Use your own.
Create your own.
Create your own.
Yeah. Do you find in your personal life there's systems too?
I do. One is I use check boxes every day. I write down the things I want to accomplish that day. And
How do you do that?
Okay, so
because I'm struggling. So the reason why I ask is I struggle with that. I have notebooks, right? I mean, these are my books, and they have doodles and all. Like, that's how I try to stay focused. So tomorrow when I walk in my office tomorrow morning, I'm here at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. I know what's left over from today and goals for tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Well, let's just say, like for example, I have between writing, teaching, things like this, podcasts,
Sure.
coaching, family stuff, family chores. I will write down the things that, like, if there's 8 things I need to accomplish that day, I need to call, like we just had a tryout for our team. I had to call 2 of the parents back to talk to them about their son. I write down the names, and I
Yeah.
put a checkbox in front of it. Have to pack because we're leaving for a baseball tournament tomorrow morning. Put a checkbox by it. I had to pay the bills today. I wanted to make sure I get all the bills. So I put a check, pay bills, check emails, put a checkbox by it. I put down this podcast, put a checkbox. And what happens is I go down that list through the day, and I love checking the box. Checking the box is like make your bed, right? General McRaven, make your bed. You do one small thing, it leads to another thing, and to another
Yes.
thing, and to another thing. Years ago, I read a book called Eat That Frog. And Eat That Frog was about, the concept was, I think it was Brian Tracy. You might want to, maybe I'll Google that in a second. It's been a long time since but Eat That Frog was a concept. Nobody wants to eat a frog. Who wants to eat a frog? But if you had to eat a frog, what he's saying is eat that frog first. Get it off your plate.
Right.
Because if that's on your checkbox, you don't want to. You're going to keep thinking about, oh, I have to eat that frog, and it becomes this monumental thing that just overwhelms you mentally. And he goes, and if you got 2 frogs to eat the ugly one first. Get that stuff off your plate.
Yes.
Get it off
Yes.
your plate, man. The last thing I want to do is go on a vacation with my family and think, oh, I have to, whatever it is that I didn't do that I have to do, and for the next 6 days, I have to sit in Hawaii. I'm in beautiful Hawaii, wondering why I didn't do that thing that I have to do when I get home. I think most
and
people.
so, yeah.
Let me just say this. I think
Yeah.
most people accomplish more the week before they go on vacation than any other week of the year for that exact reason. Like, nobody likes deadlines, but set time frames. And by the way, that's how I write too. I don't start writing unless I am ready to commit for 3 months. Because if I'm going to start writing a book, I know at maximum, it used to be minimum. Now it's maximum. At minimum, it would be 3 months.
Right.
So if I'm going to start writing this book, I know I need to commit to this. Now, the last 4 that I wrote all 4 of them in less than 2 weeks, which is weird. I don't even know how or why, but like I said, sometimes inspiration just hits you the right way,
Sure.
and you do it.
I think people struggle with consistency, and that's in their personal lives, but also in their efforts at the firehouse.
Yeah.
And in their approach to other things in life. I think consistency is a very hard thing for a lot of people, and there are a tremendous amount of people that create their own grief because they don't put any type of checks and balances in their system, or they don't have those checkbox lists that you use that allow for them to check that off so they don't have to stress about it. People bring on so much stress on themselves. It's wild. And I was one of those guys for a very long time, and I'm still guilty of it at times. There's no doubt. But I've tried. That is one thing in my life that I have tried to do better, is to not create unnecessary grief for myself.
Well, you talk about consistency. Do you name your podcast like this, this name of this issue?
Yes, I already know what the title for yours is. It was done in the first 3 minutes of this episode.
Okay. Well, here's another possible title. Get started and stop stopping. I learned that a long time ago. You talk about consistency. I'll tell you what, most people start, go for a little bit, they stop.
Yep.
6 months later, they need to restart.
Yep.
Think about a firefighter that wants to get promoted, and maybe 3 months before the test or the interview, they start studying for the interview.
Right.
And then they find, oh yeah, I'm 7th on the list, they're only going to promote 3. You know what? For the next 3 years, they don't open a book, they don't study, they don't do anything. Hey, guess what? Another test is coming up, another interview is coming up. All right, let me get in the books. Now I got 2 months, I'm going to get started again. Well, what would happen if they got started and didn't stop?
Right.
for that 3 years.
Right.
All of a sudden they come in and, wow, like this person, it's like they've been here before,
Yeah, maybe they're going to be number 1 or 2 on the list and not
Right.
number 7.
Exactly right.
Yeah. I want to ask you this. I want to talk a little bit about your speaking. I enjoy doing I have a program that I do. I'm currently writing another program, and I love teaching it. I've done it over 30 times this year across the country. I love teaching. I love getting in front of people and sharing passion. I do that with the podcast. I do it with my program, my Bridging the Gap class. I know the high and the euphoria that I get for that interaction.
Yeah.
I love, even today, just talking with you like this, I've been looking forward to this all day. I love having these conversations. I love doing this podcast. It is a joy for me. This is a passion project, nothing more. I do this because I need this, right? And then I go teach, and I come off of a stage of, I think the biggest room I ever did was like 400 or 500 people, right? You come off a stage of 20 people or 400 or 500 people. I still have that same sense of like, man, that went well. I could have done better here. But that euphoria, that sense of delivery, that sense of making an impact and a difference. Do you still get that every time you come off that stage?
Every time. It's my boys will come to some of my classes, and I tell them, they ask me, Dad, you get nervous before you speak? I never get nervous before I speak, ever. I used to. I don't anymore. I feel at home. Yeah. Because I feel like, okay, I have a message that I think is important. It's not scripted. I've seen some people that they speak, and it's very, and I have no problem with this, but it's very scripted. It's like they don't take a left turn because the conversation went in this direction. They're going in one direction.
Right.
And they're good at doing that. I can't do that. You can honestly take my class 6 days in a row.
It's different every time.
It's different every time.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, because you're just gonna follow the vibe of the room.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna interact with people. I feel compelled sometimes to tell stories that I don't always tell, because some of them are hard to tell, and some of them are just like, this is.
It's not the room.
It's not the room.
Right.
It's not the room, and it's when someone comes up to you, and I'm sure you've had this, and you have somebody that's been on a job, and I've heard these words, I've been on the job for 35 years. This is the message I needed to hear the entire time.
Yeah.
And that makes you feel like, hey, I'm helping someone. I'm making a difference, And you don't always get that feeling in your own department. The guys you work with are going to be like, he's full of shit.
They want nothing to. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's good though, because it'll keep you grounded. It'll keep you humble. I never talked about my speaking in front of the guys I worked with.
Yeah.
I'm sure quite a few of them had no idea I did it. If they did, it wasn't because of me talking about it. Never talked about the books, never talked about the speaking. And I didn't want anybody talking about it either. It just, man, this is what I do here. I'm trying to build a team here. And then I'll go out there and I'll try to pass on information that I find that's helpful. And a lot of the stuff I talk about, Jeremy, I'm sure you do. I talk about mistakes that I've made.
All the time.
Yeah, I'm not going to stand up there and say, I'm a leadership expert. You want to call me a leadership expert? I'm going to correct you as soon as I get up there. You want to call me a leadership specialist? I'll take that because it's what I specialize in, but not because I'm an expert, because it's what I'm passionate about. It's what I study. It's what I believe in, that if you have a great company officer, they can turn average firefighters into great firefighters. But if you have an average company officer, they're going to turn great firefighters into average firefighters. The company officer sets the tone.
Sure.
And has power to make great improvements or to destroy a team. And so a lot of times in my class, I'll talk about, hey, don't sit at the kitchen table and complain about your boss or about the new firefighter or about this policy or that, because you're losing credibility. But then I say, and by the way, if you have done that recently, I have too.
I'm guilty.
Right. 100%.
I have a slide in my program that just says, I'm guilty. Everything I'm talking about tonight, I'm guilty.
Yeah.
Right? I want to ask you this because, for me, I talk a lot about leadership, and I talk about a big part of it for me is everybody's starving for how to be the very best leader they can be. And there's more tools in the system than ever before, right? We have people that speak nationally. There's podcasts. There's plenty of books, right?
Yep.
And I think about the leadership movement today. I think that there is more conversation about leadership than anything else in the fire service. And a lot of times it's lack thereof. And I inherently believe that some of those values you just have to have. There's a foundation, I think, that you come from. Maybe it's that sports background, it's growing up in team sports or being involved in an activity or whatever it is. But I think inherently there has to be something within that is the beginning of making you a good leader. I believe you can learn characteristics and traits to better your message, how to deliver, how to present, those type of things. But leadership for you, were you always a good leader? Did you have
so.
any?
No. I'll tell you why. Because growing up, I was a guy, a kid, first of all, who did everything my coaches told him to do. I did everything my parents told me to do. I did everything my teachers told me to do. But I didn't do more than what they told me to do. I did what they told me to do because I thought I had to. I was supposed to. I was just, don't talk back to your teachers. Don't talk back to your coaches. You know, it was a different time back then to where few people did that anyway. But I was, that my parents kind of instilled that in me. But what I didn't realize was, hey, you know what? I don't just have to be a kid on the wrestling team. I could be a captain on the wrestling team if I wanted to. I don't just have to be a kid on a rowing team. I could be the captain of the rowing team. But I wasn't pursuing that stuff. You know, I loved being part of a team. If there was any part of me that was leadership back then, I was a really good follower. That's what it was. I was a really good follower. But I didn't look at myself like I want to lead this team. You know, I was on the, I told this story before. I don't know if I've shared it on the podcast, though. I was on the lightweight 8 for Kearny High School. I rowed sophomore, junior, and senior year. Now, if you know anything about rowing, the sport of rowing, the 8 is you have 8 rowers. You have the coxswain that's steering the boat facing the direction you're going in. The rowers have their back to that direction. And we were pretty good, you know, kind of gritty. But we're rowing on polluted river with hand-me-down equipment, and we're rowing against prep schools and private schools that are rowing out of Boathouse Row, you know, in Philadelphia, rowing out of college boathouses. You know, I mean, it was like something here is not like the others, and it was us, right? We had a decent program. There was
something about grit, though, Chief.
Well, that's what it was. It was grit, you know, and we were good. Now, my junior year, we wanted to be the first 8 to make it to the national championship with one of the top 6 boats in the country, and our head coach spoke to our coach and made the decision that he wanted to break us up into 2 4s, an A and a B team. We hated the idea. I actually didn't even remember who was on what team. It wasn't until years later, and just a couple years ago, I'm going through photo albums from school, and I was actually on the A team. We placed 5th in the country. I didn't even remember it because it meant nothing to us. We wanted to be on the 8. So our senior year, we said, this is the year. This is the year. We're going to be the first 8 to make it to the national championship. And it wasn't about winning. It's one of the 6 fastest boats in the country. We beat a lot of boats that year. We lost to a few, but we beat a lot of boats. And just before we're about ready to go down there, the coach wanted to break us up into 2 4s again. And our head coach, came to us and said, you know, head coach wants to split us up into 2 4s again. One of the kids in the room, this is the leader in the room. It wasn't me. The leader in the room said, no. And he looked at him, and we all looked at him, and he said, we'd rather go down as an 8 and lose than go down as a 4 and win. And our coach looked at the rest of us and said, how did the rest of you feel? And we all said, we agree. The look he had on his face was, that's what I'm looking for. He was proud to go tell the coach, they're not letting it happen. And we got permission to go down as an 8. We won our first heat, which we were supposed to. The second heat, only the top 2 teams in that heat are going to advance to the national championship. Just so happens the top fastest 2 teams in the nation were in that heat with us.
Of course.
But guess what? We beat them.
No kidding.
We beat them both. We broke the course record, and we went into the national finals as the fastest team in the country.
Wow.
And when I look, and we didn't win it. We didn't win it. There's a backstory to why we didn't win it too, but we made it. We made it. We were the first to do it. That team's in the High School Hall of Fame. I'm more proud of that than anything. I love being a part of a winning team. That's why that's where I got the passion for teamwork and being part of a winning team. It wasn't about being the leader on a team. We didn't look at it like anybody was a leader. You had the coxswain steering the boat, but he's the little guy yelling at us. You know, who's the captain? There was no captain. It was one boat. But here's the thing, Jeremy, that I loved about it, and I didn't identify it. Somebody else coined this term, not me. But we had this mindset of making the boat go faster. So everything we did was will it make the boat go faster? At the end of practice, if the heavyweight ate, and one of these guys went on to row in the Olympics, they were good. You know, Jeff Kopacki, he rowed in 2 Olympics. He's a world champion rower. That's the varsity. If they had a bad day on the water, they were punished. They had to go run hills. If we had a great day on the water, we didn't even tell our coach. We just went and ran hills anyway because we wanted to be fast.
Yeah.
And think about this. Every team you're on, every team, anyone listening, forget rowing. We're talking about firefighting. You're rowing in a boat, though. Everybody's in a boat, and some people are pulling their weight, and some people want to make the boat go faster, and some people are poking holes. And you have to say who's who. Who's occupying a seat, making it look like they're rowing, but they're really not. Because that happens too, you know. Who's rowing against us? You know, who says they want to make the boat go faster, but instead of eating the right food and doing hills, you know, they're going and doing all the wrong activity, saying, I really don't care about that. I'm just telling them that, but it doesn't matter to me.
Right.
This is the stuff we're talking about. When I show up at work, I want to be the best I can. I remember I had this mindset. I would show up at work as a deputy chief, and I would act, when I interacted with people throughout the community, I would act like the Kearny Fire Department is a multi-million-dollar business, and I own it. And I want to make everybody want to be a customer of this business. I want to make everybody be a fan of this business.
Yes. Yes.
That was my mindset. 100%, that was my mindset. And so I would try to do everything I could to make people say, man, those Kearny firefighters are great, because I'm representing us right now. And it wasn't like I was looking for accolades for me. I truly felt I wanted them to love the department. And I hope that there's people still out there that feel that way like you and I do about it. And
I do. I think you know, nobody wants to be on a losing team.
No.
Nobody wants to be. And I talk about this a lot in my program, and winners want to win. And when you create that winning type culture, everybody is dialed in to make sure that continues. There's a trend. There's a reason why sports teams become, you know, I'm losing my word, a dynasty. Yeah. Right? There's a reason why they win and they win and they win and they win. They build this culture.
They build a culture and they build the systems we talked about.
That's right. That's right.
Well, here's the other thing. Like being a coach of a youth baseball team, here's something I've come to realize. I have kids that like the process. They know we're not going to win all the time, but every year, baseball down in South Jersey is kind of like Game of Thrones. You know, there's all these little kingdoms and there's all these travel teams, and
it's the same up here, Chief.
Yeah, well, they're trying to take your kids, and I lose kids every year. Somebody gets sucked in by something, and you know, recently I had a conversation with a dad that you know, he thinks his son is going to be going to another team. The team probably has a similar record to ours, but they won a couple of tournaments, and he's like, hey, my son just likes to win. He goes, I guess he's a winner. That's what he said. He just likes to win. I guess he's a winner. And I'm thinking, well, first of all, our record is similar or the same as them. Over the years, we definitely have a stronger, but it wasn't about that. I remember thinking, on that team, he'll be lucky to see 2 out of 6 innings, 2 out of 7 innings in the field. On my team, he's seeing 6 out of 7 on the field. I don't want to be a winner sitting on the bench.
Yeah. Yep.
I'd rather be in the trenches, fighting, clawing my way, losing, taking my lumps, and then figuring out how to win.
It's earned.
Earning it. That's what I want. So the process of getting there is, You know what? I mean, you mentioned earlier. You mentioned that I was the Instructor of the Year. Thank you for
Yeah.
bringing that up, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm very
Congratulations.
honored by that. But here's what
Yeah.
I found out later. I was nominated 6 times. I didn't know that over the years. So think about it. I'm a 5-time loser.
These are your peers, by the way, when you think about it, right? This is the International Society of Fire Service Instructors. These are your peers. Yeah.
Yeah, but just to be nominated is
Yes.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I only knew last year because they called me up and said, and I remember what they said to me. I remember specifically, hey, we want you to know you were nominated. And I said, well, thank you. But it's going to Bill Guston. And I said, well, that's who it should go to.
Yeah.
I mean, he's here, man.
I get it.
I'm not even in the photo yet. You know, so I hung up the phone. I called my wife and said, I was nominated for Firefighter of the Year. I mean, for Instructor of the Year. And she says, that's amazing. I said, it's unbelievable. She says, does that mean you're getting it? I go, no, another guy is Bill Guston. She's like, who's that? I'm going, the guy who deserves it.
Yeah.
I said, but just to be in that conversation, I'm sure it was a brief one, but just to be in the conversation was amazing. And then the next year, you know, I received the honor myself.
What you're talking about is humility. And, you know, the humility in leadership, a good leader, being humble, right? There's so much to that.
I love being around humble people. I love being around humble people who have grit. A combination of those two.
Yep.
Because I've been around some arrogant people, and I think it's ugly. It's ugly, man.
Oh, yeah. That list keeps getting longer, Chief.
It gets longer. And you know what's funny? Sometimes you get sucked into... See, here's what's happening. This is what I'm seeing. I see some people that are coming out. They're young kids. They're in the fire service. We're talking about this industry in particular.
Yep.
Maybe they're going to start a podcast, put out a T-shirt, go out and market themselves as an instructor, and that's all great. It's great that they're doing that stuff, but I see a lot of them, not a lot of them, a few of them doing it with a message that is dangerous. And the message is something that it's almost like a screw authority message. Who cares what the chief says? You work for the chief.
Yeah.
I talked to that Army general one day, and I said to him, I asked him about if he ever micromanages. He says, never. He's like, no, I train young men and women to kill or be killed. If I micromanage them, you know, and he just talked a lot about that. And he says, Frank, when's the last time you put out a fire? I said, last week we knocked one down. He goes, yeah, but when's the last time you put out a fire? I'm like, well,
right.
Last week, you know. He goes, yeah, but where were you? I said, I was at the command post. He goes, exactly. You didn't put out the fire. The firefighter with the hose line put out the fire. You exist to serve that person, because if that person succeeds, you succeed. If that person fails, you fail. So you need to give them everything they need to do to become successful. And I said, okay. So I said, this is what I'm trying to understand about leadership. So you're telling me I work for the firefighters? He goes, no. You work for the chief of the department. And your chief has a boss too. You don't work for the firefighters. If the chief says this is the policy, you enforce the policy. If the firefighters say we don't want to follow the policy, well, that's insubordination.
Yeah.
But you serve the firefighters. You almost look at them like they're your children. I want to give you everything you can to be successful, but I will hold you accountable to a high standard at the same time. And that's the balance we need to find. And so some people are out there saying, well, screw them. Well, like, they're not going to hold me accountable. And I'm sitting there going, you don't get it because you've not been there yet. If you've never been a chief officer, don't talk about how to talk to a chief officer, because you're going to cost people their careers. And then what? Was it worth it? But then I see some of these people, and I have one of them in particular. I would love to say his name, I won't. Early on, him and I had a little bit of conflict because, you know, he came out, you know, both guns slinging.
Yeah.
And I love this guy now. He's teaching a great message. He's putting out tremendous content. We both taught at a conference not too long ago, and he came up right up to me and goes, hey, Chief, I owe you an apology. I'm not the guy I was 5 years ago, man. I grew up. That's exactly what he said. I said, I see that. I see what you're doing. You're doing amazing things. It's an amazing thing. So that's part of all, and I don't have it all figured out either. I'm sure there was a time when Salka and
None of
Lansky
us
looked
do.
at me and said, what's this kid think he's talking about?
Right.
You know?
Right. I want to ask you this, because our time is going. I want to be respectful of your time. You mentioned faith a few times tonight. In leadership, right, you need to have your outside influences shape your perspective and who you are, right, your interactions and so on. I'm finding a renewed interest in my own faith right now, which is pretty interesting, and that's steered by some of the own intrigue that I've had lately, and then a couple friends that are have renewed theirs as well. And I want to ask you, without getting too personal, but the importance of faith. You brought it up a few times tonight.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm driving. I'm going through, years ago, a massive crisis in my life. Three major crises at the same time. I can tell you, hard to breathe type of time.
Yeah.
A lot of driving by myself, a lot of thinking, a lot of reflection, a lot of how am I going to get through this. And I'm driving by St. Stephen's Church, Kearny Avenue, and I just pull over because I just feel like, I just want to say a prayer. I don't even know how to pray, but I'm going to just say a prayer. And it didn't feel right in my car. So I get up and I walk, up the stairs, get a little bit closer to the door, and it's lit. It's pretty well lit. And I'm thinking, I feel like I want to take a knee and pray right here, but I also think somebody's going to drive by and go, look at this kook. Because I'm still self-conscious and, at the time. And it's really late at night. I mean, like 11, 12, maybe even 1 in the morning. It was really late. And I remember thinking, I wish this door was open. And I grabbed the door, and it opened. All the lights were off in the church. But the door was unlocked, and the door was open. So I walked in. I went right up to the front. I knelt down, and I just said a few prayers. And shortly after that, I ran into a priest at that church. And I said to him, let me ask you a question. Do you ever leave the doors open at night? He says, what doors? I said, the front doors. Like, could someone just walk in anytime they want? He goes, no, never. I said, all right. And I realized that door was meant for me. And then I had another scenario where, I'm debating if I'm going to retire or not from the fire department. Am I going to keep going with the fire department, do a few more years of service, or am I going to keep teaching? But I know I can't do both. I can't do both anymore because now my kids are getting a little bit older. They know when daddy's not home and daddy needs to be home, right? And I don't know which one to do. I got to give up one in a sense. And I was really weighing heavy on me. So I just say, God, give me a sign and make it obvious. Make it obvious.
Hit me over the head.
The very next class I'm teaching, about a week later, I'm in Ohio. When I'm done, I like to do like a group photo. And, afterwards, a bunch of people come up, shake hands. One guy waits to the very, very end. And at the very end, he says, you know what? During a break, I ran home and I got something because I don't know why, but I felt like I'm supposed to give this to you. And he hands me his Bible. And he says, I don't know if anybody told you how powerful it is what you're teaching, but this is a message the fire service needs, so please don't stop teaching. I got back to the hotel, I called my wife and I said, I think I got my sign. But true to my nature, Jeremy, I said, God, just please give me one more sign, just to make sure. Just to make sure.
You're an overthinker.
Overthinker.
Yeah.
And when I did that, I got a text on my phone, and the text says, Chief Viscuso, we'd like to see if you'd be interested in coming to our organization and teaching some leadership training. I said, all right, I think I got it. And that's when I made the decision, like, this is my path. Now, I don't stand up and I don't talk about, listen, I'm a guy that believes, like, I have my faith, I have my beliefs, I have the things that And I don't want to push that on anybody because I accept you how you are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what
your
race is. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care what your preferences are. None of that matters. I don't care if you get your news from Fox or CNN. It doesn't matter to me. What I care about is, are you a good person?
Yeah.
You know, if we're going to work together, if we're on a fire department together, do you want to be a great firefighter? You know, if we're going to work in business together, do we have the same goals? If you're going to be on my team, if I'm going to coach you, are you going to give me your best effort and come with the right attitude? You know, and from there we're going to set some goals and we're going to work together and figure things out. And I don't claim to have anything figured out except, you know, inspiration or desperation are both going to make me move. They're both going to make me move and take action. So if you're just not comfortable where you are right now, that's a blessing, because that's God or something else telling you you need to move in a different direction. You need to go here, and I'm trying to push you. I'm trying to push you. So take a step, take a leap, take a chance. And
Have some faith.
Have some faith.
Have some faith. I think that's a great way to kind of wrap, Chief. You know, this has been an incredible conversation, and I find so many of my conversations, or the conversations I have outside of the podcast, but just with people that reach out, or, you know, like you, I'm sure, you know, I get a ton of messages and people reach out for guidance or ideas or,
Sure.
you know, so on. And so what I find is the majority of those conversations come back to exactly what we just talked about in the last few minutes here. And have some faith, have a belief, and believe in yourself. And if you don't like who you are, you have every chance in the world to fix that.
Yeah, man. Listen, I think we're obligated to fix that. You know,
I do.
I think if you're the same person, 5 years from now that you are right now, you probably wasted 5 years.
I agree.
You know, I don't even really recognize who I was 5 years ago. You know, some people, you know, we'll talk about certain, like, I don't think I'm anywhere close to where I want to be.
No.
But at the same time, I'm so much further than I thought I would have been.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pretty good place for a lot of us to be, you know, to strive to be anyway. So, and here's a really important point. I want to see people win. I used to be a guy that was very jealous. You know, I was very jealous. Here I am, beautiful homes on the water, right? You know, like, man, I would love to own one of them one day. I love, you know, these beautiful 3-story. Look at this guy's boat. It's gorgeous coming down the lagoon right now. Absolutely, I love to own that. What's that thing got to cost? $150,000. What does he do for a living? And guess what? All these beautiful homes are second homes for a lot of people. They don't even live down here year round. By the way, I'm at my father's house. I don't know if I think I mentioned that, but I'm at my father's house right now. My father was a firefighter. You know, this was his second home. You know, and him and my mom's second home. You know, they live in Kearny in a 2-family house, and then they got this beautiful house down here, and it's all possible. And I'm not talking about the material stuff. It's just possible for you to say, you know, I'm looking at what somebody else has, and it's easy to be jealous. I wish I had that. Don't compare yourself to them. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Try to be a better version of yourself, and just try to make strides to say, I want to get there. I do believe this, and I firmly believe this, that you do get what you focus on. You know, like, if you want, I did want to be an author, you know, not when I was younger, never thought about it, but when I started writing, I'm like, I want to be a guy that, you know, he didn't just do a book or two. I mean, he put out some content that maybe 40, 50 years from now, people might still be thumbing through and getting value out of. I wanted to be that, and I feel like I'm putting that content out now that I think will still be relevant those years from now. Why? Because it's what I'm striving to become as an author. Everybody listening to this podcast has to strive for something. I don't even care about the fire service for a second. Let's not talk about that. Let's just talk about life. Do it right.
Yeah.
Live it right. I want people to be happy, and I want to cheer for them, and I don't want to be that guy that I was 40 years ago, 30 years ago, not 40, but 30 years ago, where I'd be saying, oh man, I'm so jealous. 40 years ago, I was still a kid.
I couldn't agree with you more. I find when we start surrounding ourselves with people that make us better, we start cheering for everybody else around us, and you celebrate their wins and not their losses. And I think too many people celebrate the losses of others instead of the wins of others. And I think we're a much better
Yes,
place.
Absolutely. Shout out to my buddy Jerry Capola. I worked with him for years, and I remember he was always, oh, good for him. Good. Jerry's very successful. You need to know this. Very successful firefighter and home builder. He's got a amazing family life. He created. I tell him all the time, you created a beautiful life for yourself. And
Love
he
that.
always responds back with, so did you. And I tell him, and I told his wife this, Jerry was the first guy that had the mindset of, if I can't be happy for someone else's success, I don't deserve my own. It starts with you just saying, I'm happy for you. I hope this person does this. I'm pulling for you. I'm cheering for you. Like, he didn't have, from what I've seen, he didn't have this jealous bone about him where he's like, oh man, like, they don't deserve that. No, he's like, good for them. And I'd be like, good for them.
Right?
Guy's a total
I
a-hole.
love that.
Right?
Yeah.
No, and he's like, no, good for him. He's working hard. He deserves it. Man, if you can't be happy for a guy that's working that hard, you don't deserve success. That's the way he would
Yeah.
frame things for me.
Yep.
And I'd be like, oh, man, I get it. I get it.
It seems like there were a lot of influences on you along the way that have shaped you to who you are today. But I think a big part of it, right, is your willingness to be mentored. I mean, mentorship in the fire service, we talk about mentorship and the importance of that. But I always say that's only one side of it. The other side of it is you have to be willing to be mentored.
Yeah, it's not the truth. You know, if you heard that saying, we've all heard it. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
I could tell you, anytime I feel like I am the smartest person in the room, I actually say, why am I here? You know, like, if I could help people in this room, that's a great thing. I want to help them, but I also feel like I need to get into rooms where people are making me expand.
Challenging me.
Yeah, challenge me. Make me see things a little bit. And this has happened. It's happened a few times where people say, "Man, I get it." You know, this. I'm looking at this this new book as an example. When I first wrote my books, I was like, I sent them to my publisher, and I'd say, "What do you think?" And they give me their feedback. Well, maybe you should change this, 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 and this. And here's the idea for the cover. And I'm like, I don't know if I like the cover, but you're the publisher. It was that way. Now it's like, I sent the most recent one to my publisher. I'm like, hey, here's the book. And they changed a few things. I'm like, no, you have to change it back. This is the look I want. You know, I have a specific thing in mind that I feel it has to be this.
Yes.
This is the cover. I'm going to show it to you, and I'm not plugging the book. I swear, I don't care if anybody buys it.
I don't care. You plug it all you want.
This cover, I drew this cover up, and I made it up, and I sent it to Corley Moore. I said, hey, what do you think of this? And he sent me, let me do some work on it. Let me send some stuff to you. He sends me some ideas. And I looked at his, and his stuff was kind of cool, too. And I'm like, oh, man, I got to go with this one. And I had this idea of how I wanted the book to look. I wanted this look right here, you know, with the emblem and whatever it is. Whether it works or not, I had this idea. At the end of it, I want these prompts, these reflection prompts. So what people need to do is, you didn't just read something. Now we're going to make you think, how does this apply to you? And when I sent it to them, they were awesome. The publishing company is absolutely awesome. But they're like, hey, they send me like 6 different cover samples. I'm like, nah, I got to go with this one. They're like, well, we're not sure if we like. I said, I got to go with it, man. I'm telling you, my gut, it's telling me. And why I'm sharing this with you is this is where it becomes cool. I believe in this message so much, I'm not going to let anybody tell me no.
Right.
I believe in it that much. I believe this is the look for this book. This is the feel for this book. This is the message I want for this book. And I'm absolutely 100% open to hear anything anybody has to say about it. And I'm not going to make you feel like you're an idiot because you proposed a different idea. But I want to stand firm because this is what I believe in. So there's a way that you can be humble but have grit at the same time. And hopefully the message I'm trying to convey is getting through, that I hope people find that kind of conviction in the things they're passionate
that's the word.
about.
That's
Your
it.
podcast. Matter of fact, you and I spoke a couple times about doing this podcast. You wanted me to come in a studio. I want to come in a studio. Then we're like, then I'm like, I can't. Like I literally just got off a plane. I came home. I packed. Tomorrow morning, I'm jumping in a car. I'm taking, entire team out to Long Island for.
Right.
I just couldn't come up today.
Well, I thank you for doing this tonight.
Well, yeah, but here's what I want to say. I could tell that you are passionate about that studio and the vibe and the mood and what you put together.
Sure.
You love it. So this is my commitment to you. If we do this again, I'm coming there.
Yeah, we'll do it.
'Cause
Open invitation. Anybody that's ever on has an open invitation, and I would love to have you here. You're a New Jersey guy. You belong up here.
Cheers, man. Let me tell you something, and we'll end on that too.
Yeah.
What a great place to live.
No doubt.
So you just came from the beach. Let's let people know really quick how great Jersey beaches are, because I'm going to tell
Some
you.
of the best in the country, hands down.
Hands down. And
Hands
people
down.
don't know it.
They don't.
I go throughout the country. I go to these beaches. I'm in, Pensacola Beach.
Careful.
No. Pensacola Beach is a beautiful beach. I'd go there,
Right.
but I'm like, it doesn't have much over New Jersey.
Yeah.
I go out to Texas and check out their beaches. Beautiful beach. California, beautiful beaches. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
if people knew
Yeah.
how beautiful they are here.
I would agree with you 100%. We are fortunate to have everything within 8 hours drive of us.
Yeah.
Anything we want.
Yeah, we got
Anything.
New York City, we got Philadelphia, we got the mountains, we can go skiing, we got
The ocean,
Jersey
you
Shore,
name it.
the ocean.
We got it all. Yeah, it's a special place. That's why we all can't wait to get out of here.
The taxes don't help.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Chief, I can't thank you enough for joining me today, taking some time out of your busy schedule. I do appreciate it very much. And frankly, I love these organic conversations that I get to have with people. And I didn't know truly where we were going to go today or what we were going to talk about, but I am so grateful for the conversation we had, because I think there's a lot of things in here that are just going to help people in general.
I hope
Just
so.
in general.
I hope so.
You know?
That's what it's about. And I think
I agree.
for all the instructors out there, don't be afraid to let your guard down, expose yourself, and talk about some of your weaknesses, because you could stand up there and give them the rah-rah, we fight with you fear speech. There's a time and a place for that too.
Sure.
But when you say, hey, you know what? This is what I had to overcome
Yes.
to have a successful career in the fire service, that's going to help more people.
No doubt.
Because they're going to see that you're just like them.
Really well said. Real quick before we sign off, what do you have going on? What do you want to plug? Do it. Go. Where can they find? I mean, I know you're super visible, but maybe somebody hasn't heard of you or have seen your program or read one of your books. So this is yours, man.
Oh, I appreciate that. FrankViscuso.com, or commonvalor.com. They both bring you to the same website. But you can go there and you can see information on my books, speaking, and send me an email at frank@commonvalor.com.
Love it.
If you'd be interested in anything. I know I'm going to Jimmy Ellis training weekend.
Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. Those guys are really doing some good stuff out there. And
Yeah.
And then I'll be on the road, quite a
Good.
bit in the fall, but in the winter. But it's a beautiful
Well, I look
thing, man.
forward to our paths crossing, and
Yeah.
it'll be nice. So I look
Same
forward
here,
to that. And thank you again for doing this. I really enjoyed the conversation, and the friendship that I think is going to come out of this is, what it's all about. So
For sure.
Thank you.
you
Stay
for the
right here.
invite. And
Yeah.
listen, thank you for doing it the way that you're doing it, because you're one of the guys out there doing it right.
I appreciate that. It means the world. So thank you. Stay right here. I just want to sign off the podcast. I'll come right back to you, okay?
You got it, buddy.
Guys, thanks for tuning in for another episode of the National Fire Radio Podcast. Like I say at the end of every single episode, take this conversation, take it back to the firehouse and talk about it, because when we're talking about the job, we are making the job better. I'll see you at the next one. Jeremy, National Fire Radio.
National Fire Radio.